So the Russia-Ukraine war, dragging on for over 3 brutal years, is at a turning point now, and the United States, led by a restless President Donald Trump, isn't really helping. Trump and his Secretary of State Marco Rubio have made it clear they're ready to ditch peace talks if a quick deal doesn't materialize to give Trump a political win on a campaign promise he made dozens of times. Their ultimatums, delivered from Paris and Washington, reek of impatience, indifference, and even Kremlin support, leaving Ukraine, a nation fighting for its survival, on edge. This approach not only undermines Ukraine's resilience, but also plays into Russia's hands, threatening to fracture Western unity at a time when Ukraine needs it most. And to be honest, I just don't think Trump cares at this point. Let's be real, Trump's promise to end the war in 24 hours was always more bluster than blueprint. We all remember the concept of plans statement he made during the debates. Now he's dialed it back to just trying to get some sort of meaningful ceasefire by the 100-day mark, but even that's proving tough. So Rubio's threat to, quote, move on if talks don't gel in a matter of days is kind of surprising, to be honest, but it seems like Trump doesn't want to tie himself to what is turning out to be a complete failure in negotiation, instead relying on the new talking point of, hey, it's not me, this is Biden's war. Well, it was neither yours nor Biden's war, Mr. President. It was Putin's war. Biden just didn't have any illusions of grandiosity with regard to negotiating successfully with a terrorist regime. The so-called broad framework for peace that was floated in Paris sounds like a half-baked plan, vague on big issues like Ukraine's future, and also has big concessions to Russia. Trump's griping about anyone not agreeing to this deal as being fools or horrible people who won't play ball, paired with J.D. Vance's oddly upbeat take on the whole situation in Rome. Meanwhile, Witkoff is getting slammed by the Kremlin after being wined and dined by them, show this team is all over the place. And it's leaving Ukraine and allies scrambling to try and figure out what exactly the United States is trying to do here. So if the US bails on these talks, the fallout would be bad for Trump's credibility. I mean, he was supposed to be the ultimate deal maker here, and he's just not making any deals whatsoever. But really what this looks like would happen is it would be the US scrapping Rubio and Witkoff's effort to strong-arm Ukraine into a deal that smells like a Kremlin win, which President Zelensky has rightly rejected, and that's not a bad thing, but unfortunately, it could choke off U.S. military aid, leaving Ukraine high and dry once Biden-era supplies run out. And what about Trump's plans for arms sales? We already saw that he rejected a $50 billion deal. Will he continue to block Ukraine from buying U.S. weapons or slap restrictions on European allies? Moves like that wouldn't just kneecap Ukraine's defenses, they'd hurt America's own arms industry, which now leans heavily on European buyers. It's a reckless gamble, even for a guy who's no stranger to picking fights with NATO. Also, what about the mineral deal? That had a letter of intent signed earlier this week, and it's supposed to be finalized sometime next week, but without security guarantees and without any kind of backing from the United States, I think Ukraine is less inclined to make any kind of favorable deal with the Trump administration on their minerals. Thankfully, Europe's not rolling over here. Unlike Trump, who seems cozy with Moscow, the European Union isn't budging on sanctions against Russia. In fact, they're talking about cranking them up alongside with the United Kingdom. Germany is sending a massive weapons package this week. Russia continues to whine about economic problems, such as trying to reconnect to SWIFT. Well, good luck getting that past Brussels, where economic sanctions need everyone's buy-in, and I don't think Trump is ready to bail on European economic integration. He's already folded 3 times in the face of any pushback on economic sanctions with Europe. The Kremlin is playing coy here too. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov dodges the real talks, and his spokesperson Dmitry Peskov calls peace merely complex. This is all a classic Putin stalling technique while his forces pound Ukraine. The frustrating thing here, though, is that Trump continues to skirt the fact that it is Russia that is ignoring him, not Ukraine. Ukraine has consistently agreed to various ceasefire terms as presented by Washington, but Russia has either rejected them outright or tacitly accepted them only to violate the terms without any consequences. Ukraine, though, is tougher than Trump gives them credit for. Ukrainian industries are already making over 40% of their own military gear, especially game-changing drones. Europe is stepping up too, buying more of its own weapons to rely less on the US. So if Trump walks away, it's just going to expose his weakness against Putin. Leaders like France's Emmanuel Macron and Germany's Friedrich Merz are pushing for real peace that keeps Ukraine whole, not just some quick fix that hands Russia a win. As talks head to London, Europe and Ukraine are showing the grit Trump lacks here. His threats might rattle the West, but they won't break Ukraine's fight or their spirit, nor will it break Europe's resolve. And for that, we should all be grateful, because there is at least some bastion of defense of democratic Western values still alive today.